Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo. Well, part 6. And one more. Tomorrow night is part 7. Srimati Radharani has made her appearance because our general practice is we fast for a half day on Radharani's appearance, and we fast until Krishna appears at midnight on Krishna Janmashtami. Here's a nice teaching that Srila Prabhupada has given us, found in Krishna book, about the importance of what we're doing. Here's Prabhupada's writing. One can very easily remember, we can very easily associate with Krishna simply by remembering his transcendental pastimes. Smartavya satatam vishnor vismartavya rajatu chit. Sarva vidhi dasedashur etayor eva kinkara. All of the vidhis are kinkaras, or servants of this one principle. The one principle, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. And we can very easily associate with Krishna simply by remembering his transcendental pastimes. This is taken from Krishna book, from a very elevated section of the Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 35. It's when Krishna disappeared from the rasa dance. They become absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, remembering this and that and the other pastime. That was very effective. They were able to remember Krishna very well. So today, the main focus is going to be on Surya Kund. Surya Kund was both a place of her worship, and it was a place for her meeting Krishna. And the reason it was a place for her meeting Krishna is her mother-in-law, Jatila, she very much approved Radharani's going to Surya Kund and worshipping the sun god, because good health and many other nice things would come to her daughter-in-law, and so she gave her blessings. There's many examples where she actually insisted that she go. But from Radharani's perspective, it was a nice opportunity where she could meet Krishna. There's some detail. There's always some detail. One of the details is there are 8 principal pastime activities of Krishna each day. It's called Ashta Kaliya Lila. Maybe you've heard that term before. Ashta Kaliya Lila. His pastimes during 8 times of the day, and one of those times of the day is 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when Radha would go with her friends to worship the sun god and meet Krishna. It was very convenient. So here's a little map, shows where Surya Kund is. Now, everybody, most everybody, you know where Govardhan Hill is. That's that north-south laser pointer. Yeah. This is Govardhan Hill. It runs north and south. This is the punch, or the tail. This is the 2 eyes, Radhakund, Shamakund. So Radhakund is indicated here. And there's Varsana, right there. And Surya Kund is in between the two. Surya Kund. There. So she would go daily, very systematically. She'd go and worship the sun god. You know, the worship of the sun god in practice is very simple. Here she's offering sacred water to the sun god. And one might ask, I've asked, what was her fascination with worship the sun god? Here we heard someone offered, this is her Ishtadev. Well, it's not exactly her Ishtadev. She daily worshipped the sun god, but it wasn't specifically her Ishtadev. It is said that those who worship Surya, that Surya bestows Krishna prema to those that have no material desire. Now, those that have material desire, they may get some benediction of some material desire being fulfilled. But those that don't have material desire, that's a nice place to go to worship, and that's where Radha went. Here's her mother, Jatila. My dear daughter Padma, from where have you come? Padma, who is Padma? You remember? Padma is the chief assistant of Chandravali. And Chandravali is Radharani's competitor. And Padma is her chief assistant. So Jatila is asking, Padma, where have you been? I've come from Govardhan Hill. Where are the gopis? Have you seen them? Padma, they're in front of the sun god's temple. Jatila, such a long time has passed. Why has Radharani not come here yet? Padma, Krishna stopped her as she was coming here. Please go now and find her and angrily attack her. Competitor. So at this place, there's many nice things at this place. One of those nice things, this is the Samadhi of the Guru of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Because Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj spent a substantial time here. One of those things he did was he took association of his guru. And his guru spent much time, Madhusudana Das Babaji. And there are other Babajis that stayed here. This is a nice painting of Jagannath Das Babaji. He was it was because he was very, very learned and a transcendently elevated soul. There's a nice story. I think in this setting I can tell this nice story. I wouldn't do it on a Sunday feast program. But there was a Siddha Baba that also made his residence here at Surya Kund. And he was very elevated. He was so elevated that on a regular basis he would meditate, chant, and he would meditate on Radha Krishna pastimes, and those Radha Krishna pastimes would appear in his mind. He's a very elevated person. And he had a desire, doesn't say what the reason was, but he had a desire to visit Dwarka. 3 times Radharani appeared to him in his dream. Don't go visit Dwarka. He thought that it was just kind of an imagination to get such an instruction. And so he went. And when he went, something happened. He got as happens sometimes, he got a Krishna mantra, and along with Krishna mantra, he got in Vrindavan, the Babajis will sometimes, in Chandan, they'll write Radhe on their forehead. Not tilak, not vertical Vaishnav tilak, Radhe in their local language. They're not just Hindi, but their local language. So when he went to Dwarka, he got a brand that was like a Sri Vaishnava brand, and it was the chakra was placed on his right shoulder, and the mark of Krishna in his opulent position was marked on his shoulder. And after some time, he came back to Vrindavan, and he tried to enter into the same meditation that he was doing before he went, but it wasn't successful. and he was wondering what happened. And then in a dream, not in a vision, but in a dream, Lalita came and scolded him. Radharani told you not to go 3 times, and you went. And not only you went, but you got this chakra brand on you. You're no longer in Radharani's favorite list, or some language like that. She was, Lalita can be pretty strong. And he was crestfallen because he's not just, get an A in his exam and get a certificate that he passed some exam. He was a devotee of Radha Krishna. And he's now getting this message because the mood in Vrindavan is not the mood of Dwarka, and you've violated what Radharani said, and you have this other brand on your body now. So you're not fit to be a resident of Vrindavan. So he was crestfallen, and it's not a materialist that loses his job or something like that. His life, his spiritual life was. He transgressed Radharani, and his spiritual life took a turn. So the description is that Jagannath Das Babaji helped this Siddha Baba restore his sanity because he was going mad, and become situated in accepting the consequence of his decision, and so don't deviate from your spiritual practice and your spiritual principles, but your access to enter into deeper revelations of Radha's and Krishna's pastimes is not with you anymore. Just accept it. Just accept that responsibility. So he after some time, I'm going to narrate a couple of other stories in relation to Jagannath Das Babaji, but he traveled here and there throughout all of Vrindavan, and along with him, traveling here and there throughout all of Vrindavan, Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji. Do you know who's Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji? No idea, right? You heard his name. So Prabhupada is our founder Acharya, and Prabhupada's spiritual master was Bhaktisiddhanta. Bhaktisiddhanta's spiritual master was Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji. Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji's spiritual master was Jagannath Das Babaji. Now, they were Babajis by their inclination, and it's just some detail. Gaur-Kishore, Prabhupada says that not only, he was illiterate, he couldn't write his name, but from hearing from Jagannath Das Babaji, he was highly elevated and highly respected. So Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji, along with Jagannath Das Babaji, traveled here and there throughout the whole of Vraja. One of their favorite places of residence was Suryakund, because Madhusudana Das Babaji resided at Suryakund. So that was kind of like a home base for them. But they traveled here and there, and they're both very respected Vaishnavas. Very learned. Although he was illiterate, he was very learned from hearing, not from the other kind, academic. We in ISKCON, we know very much about Jagannath Das Babaji from Mayapur. I'm pausing. What do we know about Jagannath Das Babaji in Mayapur? We know about him primarily through Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I missed Bhaktivinoda Thakur's name. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was senior to Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji, and then senior to him was Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I want to get back to Suryakund, but I'm getting lost here. Jagannath Das Babaji stayed for a long time. He had an assistant, and And his assistant, he was so old. He lived to be 140 years old. He couldn't walk. He had to be carried in a basket. So his assistant carried him in a basket to the train station and took him all the way to Navadvip from Mathura to the train station to the Calcutta train station and then to Navadvip in a basket. And it was Jagannath Das Babaji that confirmed, without all the preliminary details, the original birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur determined that the people of his time were accepting the wrong place as the birthplace of Mahaprabhu. And he divined the actual place. For many events happened. But the final confirming event, Jagannath Das Babaji was carried in a basket, and he jumped out of the basket way up in the air and called out loudly, "This is it. This is the birthplace of Mahaprabhu." So he, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then built a little temple and gave to his son, Bhaktisiddhanta, the service of establishing a more formal temple, which he did. And that temple is still there. In the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the big white building, tall spire, constructed by Bhaktisiddhanta under the order of his father and confirmed by Jagannath Das Babaji. So he was known both in Vrindavan and in Navadvip, although he was so old. And in one of the places at the Suryakund, there's the Gaurnitai deity. I mentioned this. Now, this is the photograph that I mentioned. It is Chandan marking the area around the crown, but the crown of Radha, one time when Radha came and took bath in Suryakund, while she was bathing, she laid her mukut, or her crown, on this rock. And so now the rock is called the Mukut Shila. Just Shila means rock. The place where she placed her crown, it melted. So while Jagannath Das Babaji, this is the common ISKCON painting that we have on our altars and so forth, bent over, chanting japa, he requested his assistant to find him a deity. And there's details and details in his biography, but he went to a place where he found some deities. He requested, and we went all the way to Calcutta, and this is the deities. They're golden-colored Gaurnitai deities. In fact, he then made an arrangement of someone who would then purchase a nice altar to place the deities, and he came all the way back by train from Navadvip, or from Calcutta, to Vrindavan, and gave the deities to Jagannath Das Babaji to worship, called Sonar Gauranga. Sonar at this particular location, because they looked that as if they were golden, made of gold. Some robbers came, and they tried to steal the deity in the dead of night. And somehow they slipped and fell and woke up in the morning unconscious. They fell unconscious, and Jagannath Das Babaji was very disturbed. So he told his assistant, "You go find another place for these deities." And to this day, these deities are worshipped as Sonar Gauranga. You see the hand position. Lord Chaitanya's got this mudra, and Lord Nityananda's got the other mudra. And they're very beautiful deities, and they look like they're made of gold, but they're not. Some time passed, and he very much wanted a deity. So he said, "Find it somewhere. Find another deity." And he didn't specify what deity. So his assistant went to Radha Kund. He met with another Babaji over at Radha Kund, and they were searching, and they found in a pile of hay or straw that was used for feeding cows, there was a Sadbhuj deity. Sadbhuja means six-armed deity. The Sadbhuja deity, this is the deity. It has two arms of Lord Chaitanya, two arms of Radha, of Krishna, and two arms of Ramachandra. Sadbhuja deity. And he worshipped that deity. And then after some time, when he wanted to go to Calcutta, he requested his assistant to find a place. He found a place. There's a temple to this day. It's called the Sadbhuja Mahaprabhu Temple. It's the ashram of Gopal Guru. Gopal Guru was a very important, very significant follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in the area of Vrindavan known as Nidhuvan. Nidhuvan is the very same area where the Radha Damodar temple, it's a large area where Radha and Krishna would perform rasa dance during certain seasons. So it's a nice place, and it's a nice deity. In the same place where Surya Kund, there's this pot looked like it's made of clay, maybe made of brass and some covering on it or something. And that's still, it's pot that he actually used. That, kamandalu, that's what a sannyasi would keep as his possessions in his cloth. And that's it. Around the same time I mentioned, there's a nice drawing of Gaura Das Babaji. And he made his close association with Jagannath Das Babaji. And when he went here, he went there, he went to another place, he stayed by his side. And eventually when Jagannath Das Babaji shifted from Vrindavan to Navadvip, so did Gaura Das Babaji. But he was very well known, according to the biographers of his life, as a very learned person, a literate learned person, from his hearing from Jagannath Das Babaji. Sarvabhauma, Jagannath Das Babaji. And inside, this is the Surya Dev temple. Now we're going to see a close-up of the deity. You see on either side of the face of the deity, there's this brass feature of the sun god's face, the sun god and the radiance of the sun god. And down below, just at his feet, there's Radha Krishna deities. We're going to see a close-up of those Radha Krishna deities. And then over to our right, or to the left of the deity, there's the deity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and, again, Radha Krishna. So here's the close-up of those deities, Radha Krishna and Mahaprabhu. The deity that's right in front of the Surya Dev deity is Radha Kishore. It looks like it's at lunchtime because he doesn't have his flute in his hand. And here's a close-up of the deity. Now, I've not seen the deity, but I've heard from those that have seen the deity when they're dressing the deity or bathing the deity, etc., worshipping the deity. They remove these sun images. They remove the background because the deity is one of those bas relief deities. You know what that means? It's not three-dimensional. That's rising from a background. The background is a flat stone. And then, so it's not the full feature of 360 of the deity. There are such deities. And a nice example of one such deity is in the Gopinath deity that's in Puri. No, it's in Orissa. On the way to, what's the name of the deity? Huh? Chira Kora Gopinath. Chira Kora Gopinath is a bas relief deity, similar style. So here's the deity. Here's a very close-up image of the deity. There's lots of photos of this deity. Now, the deity, it's the deity himself is Narayana. And so the worship is not just of the sun god, but the worship is of Surya Narayana. So there are different understandings. One different understanding, for example, is Dinabandhu. When he takes groups to this place, he speaks that this is actually Krishna. There's no Krishna with his flute. That's his explanation. It's Krishna. The deity is Krishna. And the scene, it's a little bit remote. To get to the place, it's a trek. It's not easy to get to, but here's what the place looks like. There's an image of the temple, domes from a distance, and there's the water, the kund itself. Here's another from a further away angle. There's some water buffaloes swimming around over there. And there's the dome of the temple in the background. And there's places where the local villagers will come and take their bath. Little bathing ghat place. And, where Radha and her associates would also come for worship of Surya Dev and so forth. Now, there's a little history, a very interesting history, very amusing history of how the deity became established. And the history begins like this. One time, Krishna was engaged in pastimes with Radharani, and he was so much charmed by the beauty and the activities that he was engaged in with Radharani, he didn't even notice that his flute that was normally tucked in his waistband fell. And he didn't notice it, didn't hear it, didn't notice it. But the gopis noticed it. And particularly Lita, she found the flute. And she decided to hide the flute. So she hid the flute in her braid. First, she had this conversation with the flute. This is in this history description. Oh, you think you are so important? You are so hard. You are so cold. You have so many holes. And as you was creating so much disturbance in our life, you are just born from the mud of a river. Without any qualification, you are enjoying Krishna's lips, but we have to go through so much difficulty. Rather than return you to your master, I will teach you a lesson. She's scolding Krishna's flute. So there's a nice painting indicating the pastime. She's placing the flute in her braid. And on one side, that's Vishaka, and there's Lita. And on the other side, there's Chitra Devi, Tungavidya, and Champakalata. And on the other side, the other of the three principal gopis, Indulekha, Sudevi, and Rangadevi. And then another nice painting of the same pastime. So this took place at Surya Kund. Now Krishna decided, let us have a gambling match. No, we don't gamble. But they, in sporting activities, they would gamble. Radha was matched against Krishna. And guess who won? Time and again, Radha won. And so she would wager, and if I win, you have to give me your what's his gem called? Kaustubha gem. So Krishna lost his Kaustubha gem. He had a pearl necklace. He lost his pearl necklace. Radharani kept winning. And finally, she wagered, if you lose, you have to give your flute. He couldn't find his flute when he lost. So he immediately panicked. Where's my flute? Where's my flute? And he asked Madhu Mangal. You know who is Madhu Mangal? Some of you know. I'm looking at these two. They don't seem to know. Madhu Mangala. Mangala, you know. Madhu, you know. So Madhu Mangala is a Brahmin friend of Krishna. There's cowherd boys that are all Vaishyas, and then there's Brahmin friend, Madhu Mangal. So Madhu Mangal, do you know Jyotish? Yes. Could you find out where is my flute? He said, oh yes, I can find out where your flute is. Let me calculate. He did his calculation. He said, I know where your flute is. Lalita has it. And she turned red and was really embarrassed. And Krishna said, if you claim you don't have your flute, then let me search. And she panicked because she knew she had his flute. And so she got up, and when she got up, the flute fell out. But Krishna was so much after her that he didn't even notice the flute fell out. So Radharani put the flute in her braid. And Madhu Mangal was now challenged. She doesn't have my flute. So what good is your Jyotish? And I'll do my calculation again, but I'm sure she had my flute. Sure she had your flute. So in this way, the scene was going on. Then all of a sudden, one of the, I forget her name, one of the gopis was on guard. Jatila's coming. Jatila's Radharani's mother-in-law. Jatila's coming. So they all scattered. And Krishna forgot about, pursuing his flute. But Radharani had the flute in her braid. So Jatila, because they were supposed to be at Suryakund, so they ran quickly from where they were to Suryakund, and Jatila shows up. And Jatila is looking for Radharani. She finds Radharani. Have you done your puja yet? Well, all the brahmanas were taken by other girls that were worshipping Suryadev, and I couldn't find a proper brahmana. And lo and behold, here comes a brahmana, Madhu Mangal, ready to perform the Surya Puja. And negotiations with the brahmana, what would be your fee for doing the yajna, the Surya Puja? He said, no, not so difficult, just bring sweets. Madhu Mangal is very fond of laddu. And so he began the Surya Puja, and he chanted some mantras, and he spoke the following prayers. This is from Bhakti Ratnakar. Here is Suryakund Gram. Just see the deity of Suryadev situated in the Surya Mandir within this forest. Now, you see at the bottom, the name of the book is Bhakti Ratnakar. Bhakti Ratnakar is a historical account by Kavi Karnapur, a very celebrated author, who wrote about the persons and the places after Mahaprabhu's departure from this world. That's what Bhakti Ratnakar is. It's kind of like a sequel to Chaitanya Charitamrita. After Lord Chaitanya departed, who were his associates and what did some of the things that they do and what are the places they went. So one of them is Suryakund. In great happiness, Radharani with her Sakis came here to worship Suryadev. Krishna himself became the priest and enjoyed performing the puja. The deity of Suryadev is very merciful and gives love of Krishna. That's her reason for worshipping Suryadev. Surya, deity, or Surya Narayan, for one who has no material desire, he gives prema. And that's why Radharani went there. The deity, gave to Radharani love for Krishna. Of course, she has love for Krishna. Who can describe his glories, and who will not worship him? I worship Suryadev, who is the father of Yamuna, the sun, is the father of Yamuna, and the destroyer of all diseases. He bestows all attachment to the lotus feet, all attachment to the lotus feet of Krishna, and therefore he is the basis of all auspiciousness. I think that he destroys detachment. He bestows attachment. There we go. He bestows attachment to the lotus feet of Krishna, and therefore he is the basis of all auspiciousness. So this pastime, in addition to being described as we're hearing it, it's also in detail described by Krishnadas Kaviraj in his Govindi Lilamrita. Now, Krishnadas Kaviraj, you've heard his name? He's the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, right? So that was his main work, but another writing, because he was a kavi, a learned person and a poet, and very learned. So he wrote Govinda Lilamrita, and this pastime we're narrating is described in Govinda Lilamrita. One of the persons that Jatila, the mother-in-law of Radharani, and she's the mother of Abhimanyu, or mother-in-law of Radharani, she trusted Kundalata. Kundalata was the wife of Upananda's son. So who's Upananda? There are 5 brothers. It's a long, you don't mind history, genealogy. You know who is Nanda Maharaj, right? So Nanda had 4 brothers. Nanda was the middle brother. And the father was Parjanya. When it's time for Parjanya to turn his kingdom over, traditionally it goes to the elder brother. And Upananda is the elder brother. But when the ceremony came for enthroning Upananda, he said, actually, I'm the elder brother, but the most qualified person should become the king, not just the elder brother. And my younger brother, the middle brother, Nanda Maharaj, he's the most qualified person. So if whatever honor is given to me, I give to him. He becomes the king of the cowherd community. He's the most qualified person. And I'll serve him. Therefore, it indicates my name, Upa Nanda. There's Nanda, and Upa means near. Upananda. So Upananda, he was a grahastha, and he had a son. And his son was Subhadra. And Subhadra was married to Kundalata. So because of that family relation, and because of her good qualities, Kundalata was very much respected by Jatila. As she respected Nanda, she respected his elder brother, Upananda, and the wife of his son. Anyway, so there's a family relation going on here. And Kundalata was sent regularly with Radharani to make sure that she didn't meet with Krishna. But she was a double agent. She went on Jatila's behalf, but she was always on Radha's side to meet with Krishna. And there's Radharani. So all of this is described. There's very, very sweet pastime in Govinda Lilamrita, where Kundalata is responding to questions asked by Jatila. What happened when you went to Surya Kund? Was Krishna there? Da, 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 da. It's just very, very intriguing dialogue. And the whole the pastime has everything to do with the relation between Radha and Krishna. All these other personalities are centered on Radha and Krishna. And then there's the eternal pastime that Radha and Krishna are eternally associated. And then there's the Bhoma Lila, when Krishna appears and Radha appears, and whether they're married or not married. And there's different points of view, different perceptions. But that one of the prominent perceptions in the whole pastimes of Radha and Krishna is Radharani is married to Abhimanyu. She's married. And her relation with Krishna is outside of marriage. And, that's a no-no by social custom. It's immoral. What Radharani was doing was immoral. What Krishna is doing is immoral. And there are persons that openly criticize Krishna in their commentaries. And then here we are speaking about how nice it is. Because it's a loving exchange. The thread is they're eternally associated. The sun and the sunshine are eternal associated. They're not separate. There's no shine without sun. There's no sun without shine. They're inseparable. So there's a pastime where it appears for the challenge of the whole situation that there's obstacles that they can be together. Worldly obstacles. And somehow, again and again, they manage to get together. A very similar pastime is described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Now, those of you who have been with us, you've heard his name many times. He's an author that describes, he wrote a commentary on the entire Srimad Bhagavatam verse by verse. Very profound. Very deep. And in addition, he wrote, as we've been hearing, one book that just gives 4 pastimes of Radha and Krishna, the meeting of Radha and Krishna, this way, that way, the other way. And Krishna Bharvanamrita, he discusses the same topic. This topic is how Radharani was worshipping Surya Dev, and it was assisted by 2 priests. One of the priests was Madhavangal, and the other was a priest from Mathura. And he went by the name Vishvasharma. But it was Krishna. Sharma's a nice Brahmin's name. Mathura Brahmin. Vishvasharma. And there's, you know who that one is? Mukhara. We've seen her many times. That's Radharani's grandmother. And very protective of her granddaughter, Mukhara. There's a very amazing description in Rupa Goswami's dramas of where the Shamantaka jewel came from. The Shamantaka jewel in Rupa Goswami's writings came from the sun god. Shamantaka jewel, right, in Dwarka. Satrajit had a Shamantaka jewel. He worshipped Surya Dev, the sun god. The sun god was very pleased by his worship, and he gave to Satrajit a gift, the Shamantaka jewel. And you worship this jewel, and you get so many mounds of gold every day. Oh, he was very happy. And he became very wealthy. And he became very puffed up and infatuated with his wonderful, wonderful, wonderful jewel, Shamantaka jewel. But it came from the sun god. But before that happened, there's this interesting pastime in Vrindavan where the same jewel was on the head of Shankachuda. Shanka, Chuda. Shanka means conch. And Chuda. So he had this jewel on his head that was effulgent. It was shaped like a conch. And this is described in detail in Lalita Madhava Act 6. How this Shanka Chuda jewel, the Shamantaka jewel, came into the sun god's hand. It was on his head. Krishna knocked out the Shankachudha. He gave the jewel. He gave the jewel to Balaram. Remember? Yes. He gave the jewel to Balaram. What's Balaram going to do with the jewel? So it ended up in the hand of the sun god, Vivaswan. Vivaswan gave the jewel to Satrajit, who was a worshipper of the sun god. And then the Satrajit had to surrender the jewel because he had a big problem with Krishna. It's a long story. I'm not telling all the details. We'd be here for a few hours. So here's Radha with Krishna by the side of Suryakund. And they're enjoying their pastimes together. She's doing her worship. But one day, Chandravali's friend Padma was informed Radharani's mother-in-law, Jatila, that Radha and Krishna were enjoying pastimes together at Bandiravan forest. Jatila arrived at that place and saw Radha and Krishna together. At that time, the following conversation occurred between her and Radharani's friend, Shama. Jatila. Agitated by a foolish girl, I have come here. What am I to believe? Shama. I have firm faith in you. Tell me what's happening here. Shama is one of her assistants. When I tell you the truth, I'm not deceiving you. What you see is Subal, dressed up like a girl, clowning with Krishna, the funny comedian of Braja village. So when we go to Vrindavan, one of the places we'll go is this place. This is Bandiravan. You'll recognize it's a big banyan tree, and it's a place where we're going to hear something about it tomorrow. But it's a place where the formal marriage between Radha and Krishna occurred. No, we'll just step back. There are different versions because there are different days of Brahma when Krishna appears and Radharani appears, and different ways that Krishna appears and different ways that Radharani appears. There are different narrations during different days of Brahma. One of those narrations from Brahma Vaivarta Purana is a narration where Krishna and Radha marry. We're going to hear a little bit more tomorrow evening. Not in detail, but a little bit about the marriage of Radha and Krishna at Bandiravan. The performer of the wedding of Radha and Krishna is Lord Brahma. Hi Krishna. Welcome. We're just about to finish. Okay. So I did a shorter version. Maybe I shouldn't have done a shorter version. But I'm kind of skipping from one. I'll go back. Skipping from one pastime to another pastime to another pastime. But the pastime is how the Surya Dev deity appeared. That was how we started. The history of the Surya Dev deity appearing. So when Jatila came and the Surya worship wasn't going on, all of a sudden Krishna made himself appear as the Surya deity, effulgent, and there was Radharani worshipping the Surya deity, and Jatila was very happy. But she was worshipping Krishna, and she knew she was worshipping Krishna, but Jatila thought she was worshipping Suryadev because he was very effulgent. And from that time, that's how the Surya Dev deity became manifest. Because the worship of Surya, or the sun god, it doesn't require a deity. You can worship the sun god just by offering water and mantras and so forth, as brahmanas can do. But Krishna wanted to trick Jatila, who thought she caught Radha red-handed. So he manifested himself as the Surya deity. That's the history. And by the way, he got his flute back. What happened when Jatila came, Radharani jumped, and when she jumped, the flute fell from her braid. And Jatila saw the flute. Aha! Where'd you get this flute? Where'd you get this flute? Whose flute is this? Well, a while ago, I was on the side of Govardhan Hill with my Gopi friends who were taking care of some of Abhimanyu's cows, and this flute fell down the hill, and I picked up the flute. I know whose flute it was. I decided I'm just going to throw it in the Jamuna River. Oh? Well, I'll tell you what. You give me the flute, and I'll throw it in the Jamuna River. Jatila to Radharani. And then he won't be able to pull any of his mischief anymore because he won't have his celebrated flute. And then Madhu Mangal stepped forward because he was the priest, and he said, I know this mischief maker, and I'll take care. I was planning to go in that direction anyways. I'll save you the trouble. Give me the flute. So Jatila gave him the flute, and guess who got the flute back? It's all in this little story within a story within a story within a story, and exchanges. And the whole besides it's humorous, it's loving exchange. We discussed this before, but I'll say it again, no problem. These pastimes of Krishna are simply stimulations of ecstatic love, or so step back. One of the primary reasons for Krishna to appear, in Bhagavad Gita we have 4 reasons given. 3 plus another one. The 3 that are given, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhutanam adharmasya tridatmanam srajamyaham. When there's discrepancy, dharma glani, discrepancy in religion, I come. Just set things straight. Restore dharma when it's destroyed or declining. Then another reason, 3 reasons. Paritanaya sadhanam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma sangsthapanartaya, to restore dharma, but to curb the demons and to give pleasure to the devotees, to protect the devotees. So those are practical reasons that all avatars, when they appear in this world, they do. But Krishna specifically is stimulating love amongst his devotees. As one of the, from Rupa Goswami's writings, there are 4 most prominent of the 64 qualities of Krishna, and they're all in this category of sweetness, and he's stimulating loving exchange with his devotees. That's the primary purpose of Krishna's appearance. Let me say it again. Stimulating loving dealings for his pleasure and for their pleasure amongst his devotees. So in this way and in that way, and so many, a cast of many, many people are being engaged in loving exchanges of Radha and Krishna, and but also Krishna and Madhu Mangal, and Krishna the Gopas, and Krishna his mother, and Krishna his father, and the cows, and loving exchanges with all these different associates who Krishna loved very much. And according to their unique position, he's reciprocating loving dealings. And sometimes there's the opposition, the protagonist and the antagonist. And Jatila has the good fortune of being the antagonist. She tries to make obstacles for Radha and Krishna meeting. Now that's not possible. Create an obstacle that the sunshine can't be with the sun. Not possible. Not possible. So it's pastime. Therefore we say lila, or pastime. Krishna's loving pastime with his devotees. And all of these descriptions that I've spoken little by little, they're all writings of our acharyas, just some appreciation for our acharyas, let's go to Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the Amala Pramana, the best evidence to understand anything about the absolute truth. But these pastimes are not found in Srimad Bhagavatam. So what's the basis of these narrations? The basis of these narrations are the revelation that Krishna provides in the heart of such a devotee. So then, question, what's the difference? How do we know if something is a revelation or if something's just a fanciful imagination and is a fiction writer? How do we know? Is there a way to know? And the answer is very simple. The answer to that is you see the quality, the adhikar, the qualification of the particular individual, not like their lifestyle, but the details and details and details and details and details. That is to say, on the lifestyle side, they're very detached from materialism, and on the spiritual side, 24/7, they're deeply absorbed in the spiritual side. They're everything, inside, out, sideways, forwards, backwards, in all directions. They're completely dedicated to the personality of Godhead. They have the lakshana, or the symptoms. And one can see the symptoms in such a person. I'll give a little example. Prabhupada didn't, he simply repeated the words of our acharyas, but his lifestyle was so fixed that he permitted devotees to have his intimate association, and if they had a tendency to look for some fault, they couldn't find any. Impeccable. And literally 24/7. Lifestyle wise. Here's some practical. There's so many practical examples. I'll give three practical examples. One practical example: he hardly slept. He slept maybe 2.5 to 3.5 hours a day. In an old age, with his body, with 2 heart attacks, and one kidney wasn't working at all, and the other kidney was half working, and it's not humanly possible. And every day, and persons with him all that time, seeing exactly when did he sleep, did he eat. What was his lifestyle like? What was he doing? 24/7. 2.5 hours of sleep. And the volume of what he produced, the transcendental literature to leave behind him. When did he do that? He did it when we were asleep. I had a little experience. This is. I wasn't one of those persons that was his personal servant or anything like that. But I was, for a while. This is just a little glorification of Prabhupada. That's what I'm doing right now. And you by the lakshana, by the characteristics, you can see. So the evening after the temple evening class. Prabhupada would give a class every morning, every evening, and after the evening class, I was a temple commander for a while, during one of Srila Prabhupada's visits. In temple commander, there's no job description. Temple commander means whatever needs to get done, you see that it gets done. And if you can't find somebody to do it, you have to do it yourself. That's the job description. And there were like 150 people living in that building. They have a lot of needs. the kitchen, without all the list of things. So one of the things that was really difficult to do when Prabhupada was visiting was who was going to guard his quarters. Because the place where we lived during two of Prabhupada's visits was a rented place called a double brownstone building. Brownstone. It was brownstone. Like these buildings in St. Louis, they're all red brick. The old ones downtown. So it was brownstone. It was brownstone. And on this side was the temple room, and then the residential quarters upstairs. On that side was Prabhupada's quarters, and then we had some living space for the ladies on the upper floors on the other side. And we had like a hall for having class if we needed. So, and we had a hall for so. And then there's in the backyard there was a little backyard, mini backyard. There was a big wall. But this is Brooklyn. And, the big wall isn't going to stop thieves. So you have to guard the place because there's Prabhupada inside. So at the end of the day, somebody had to guard Prabhupada's quarters all night long. Couldn't find anybody to do that. So guess what? I had to do that. So I sat by the window outside his quarters. So this side is the temple room, that side is his quarters. And after class, he took, some hot milk and some moolies, little. And then he went to the front room and sang with his harmonium, just himself alone, and sang bhajans for about 15, 20 minutes. And then it was time to take rest. The time to take rest meant, he had this drawstring thing, you turn the light out that way, and he went into his room and lights out. An hour and a half later, lights on. And he, had took his quick bath and brushed his teeth and stuff and came out and sat at his desk. Little lamp on his desk went on. And then he's running his fingers across these giant books, the commentaries. Doing the Bhaktivedanta purports where everybody else is upstairs zonked out. Completely exhausted from the day's activity. And there's our founder Acharya translating the Bhaktivedanta purports. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day, for years, to produce volumes and volumes. For whom? For us. People that he never met before. People that are, lost in cuckoo land, trying to be happy where there's no happiness, trying to find water in a desert, trying to find, the purpose of life when they're not really, they're worried about being successful, not what the purpose of life is. So anyway, for those people he didn't know, that's what he was doing. Consistently. So back to how do you know that what's in the Bhakti, and then read the purports. What do you get? Realization. It's realization, but it's, in the line of our previous acharyas. That's what he did. And etc. Here's another little story. I like this little story. It happened twice. I just came across it a second time from Australia. One of Prabhupada's disciples, female disciples, was Mother Jamuna. And she was like early on in the Hare Krishna movement. She met Prabhupada on the West Coast. And she somehow developed a very close personal relationship with Prabhupada. Prabhupada loved her. She loved him. He loved her. It was like it's like father and daughter relationship. So one time they're in London. In London, sometimes there's fog and there's rain. It's like that kind of climate. And every morning, Prabhupada, doesn't matter what the weather was, he'd go for a morning walk. And so she told me this story personally. It's in some biography that she had written. She was walking behind Prabhupada. There was thick grass in the Bhaktivedanta Manor out in the suburban part of England, of London, and walking behind Prabhupada thinking, how wonderful, how fortunate. I'm with my spiritual master this early morning hour. There was someone taking photographs, which isn't just the two of them, but I follow in the footsteps of my spiritual master. So she purposely walked behind, but she wasn't able to find his footsteps. But she looked behind herself, and where her footsteps were was very clear, where she had walked. So she asked Prabhupada, how come there's no footsteps? Tall grass, wet. And Prabhupada said, one day you'll understand. And the very same thing happened in Australia. There's a little recording. There's Prabhupada memories. Vishaka and Yadobar traveled here and there and made videos of. So they interviewed this devotee, whose name I can't remember, in Australia, and the same thing happened. He was in a morning walk party. There's one sannyasi on this side, another sannyasi on that side, and Prabhupada in the middle. And the two sannyasis on either side have footsteps, but Prabhupada had no footsteps. In the sand, they were walking by a beach or something like that. And he thought, what he said in the interview was, this may be a flashback to my LSD days. I don't know what it was. But then I read in Yamuna's book that wasn't just hallucination. Is Prabhupada didn't leave footsteps. Now what's that? I mean, what's the implication of that? Prabhupada didn't give an answer. So one day you'll understand. So maybe one day we'll understand. But he is a transcendentalist. Like walking on water or walking on sand where you make no footsteps, or walking in the dewy grass in outside London, and there's no footsteps. Even those are simple material things. What to speak of the spiritual things? What to speak of? There's so many nice stories. When they were building the temple in London, that something happened, and one of the columns started to move. So there's the deity underneath this canopy, and three strong men tried to hold the big thing from crashing on the deity, and they couldn't hold it. Prabhupada stood up and held it till they could fix the column, so the deities could be safe. He was like Superman. And just but it's spiritual strength. It's not physical strength. He's an older, shorter, statured gentleman. Very scholarly and very, this and that. Just an extraordinary person. So, how can we trust? He didn't say far. He said some far out things. He didn't go to the moon. He said some far out things. But he substantiated it from Scripture. Why do I say that? This is why I say that. Then he gave his explanation. And what he was able to accomplish is unprecedented in history. To take one man taking world religion around the world in 12 years at his age. It's unprecedented. Never happened in history. Never happened in history. In the history of the world, it never happened. So there's qualification, adhikar. So our acharyas are such people. I told this nice story, Krishnadas Kaviraj. No, not Krishnadas Kaviraj. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I told this nice story. Do you remember that nice story? I'm getting lost. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, was a very scholarly, elderly person. And prior to him, in lineage of successors, acharyas, Rupa Goswami, there was this discussion, because we've been touching on it a little bit here tonight. Were Radha and Krishna married or not? And there's one way of saying it, and there's another way of saying it, and it doesn't really matter. Well, it really matters. That eternally they're connected, they can perform a lila, whereas it's as if they're not. A lila as if they're not. They're eternally associated. The sun and the sunshine, eternally associated. That's the reality. The Ladini Shakti of Shaktiman is eternally connected to Shaktiman. There's not a separation between them. But there's leelas and where they're separated. And he's feeling sad and she's feeling sad, and they want to meet. And there's obstacles for their meeting. It's a leela. So Vishwanath, just to cut it short, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote a book on the topic. And he was so strong. And he wrote, while the pastime is not in marriage, they're eternally married, but the pastimes are in not marriage. And substantiated it with scripture, and wrote a book. And the people of his time, his predecessor, Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami, they lined up with, they didn't want to disturb the minds of worldly people, because worldly people might take ill advantage and do some cheap, poor things, imitating Sahajas. So they took a neutral position. Vishwanath took a strong position. And because of his strong position, there were scholars and learned men of the time, they didn't like it. They didn't like him. They decided, they made a murder plot. So I narrated this before. And they found out that every morning he had a practice of getting flowers for his deity. So they went to the place where at that time in the morning he would go get flowers for his deity. And they saw him. And he saw them. And he turned a corner and he was gone. And they had a murder plot. They got their weapons and this and that ready to go. Instead, they found a young girl, a very beautiful young girl. And they asked this beautiful young girl, "Did you see the sadhu come through here picking flowers? And, and we've never seen you here before. Who are you?" And she said, she disclosed her identity. "My name is Rati Manjari. I'm a servant of Srimati Radharani, and I come here every morning to gather flowers that she can offer to Krishna." And they were stunned by her words, they were stunned by her beauty, and then suddenly the young girl turned into Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, like poof. And they were shocked, to say the least. They fell at his feet, the sadhu they were planning to kill, and they disclosed the murder plot. And he said, "I knew all along what your plan was. Now please just don't do things like that again. I forgive you. Just don't do things like that again." And he continued picking flowers. So these acharyas that write these things that are not found in Srimad Bhagavatam, are we to accept them? Do they have the adhikar to get direct first-hand realization of Krishna? And Krishna can reveal things to them. It's not fiction, but Krishna is revealing things to them. It's not only possible, that's what happened. And there's examples and examples. So those that have the qualification and they align what they write in the line of disciplic succession from which they come, we can accept them with all confidence. And that's why I'm spending, 6 classes and then tomorrow another class on these topics, because they give us insight on the close up view of Krishna and Radha, because it's Radhastami, of Radha's love, her love for Krishna, and how she does things in sometimes angry mood, her man disposition, and that's not found in Srimad Bhagavatam. But what's her personality like? Not there. But our Acharyas, though Chaitanya disclosed, and they wrote the books and got their realizations, and he empowered them to do all this. So that's our disciplic line. The followers of Lord Chaitanya revealed things that are in principle within the scripture, just like I did at the temple. This Anandamayo Bhyasat, that reference from Vedanta Sutra 1.1.7. It's the Vedanta Sutra. So what does that mean? Anandamayo Bhyasat. What does that mean? If you're a scholar, you'll know what it means. And if you're not really a scholar, you'll say something else. But what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed, and what these great authorities, it's resting upon what's in the Shrutis and the Smritis, and they're giving details and details by revelation. And they have the qualification to present the revelation, not just imagination. So I'm going off a little bit. Any discussion? There's a Bluetooth delay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, today he spoke about sun god, worship to the sun god, right?
Yeah.
And told that sun god can give material desires as well as
yes.
Yes. So we have this Brahma Gayatri, right?
Yes.
So when we chant the Brahma Gayatri, so is it good for spiritual progress or?
Yes. Yes. Why not? Why shouldn't it be? It's a standard Vedic mantra. Now, there are persons that have not spiritual vision and they chant Brahma Gayatri. Persons that have spiritual vision, they chant Brahma Gayatri. Persons that have Vaishnava conception, and they chant Brahma Gayatri. So there's different experiences for different persons that have their faith rooted in the material, rooted in the impersonal, rooted in the personal. It's beneficial. What's really important then is not just the mantra, but the person from whom one receives the mantra and the explanation of the mantra. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's some description of Brahma Gayatri. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that the Srimad Bhagavatam is a commentary on Brahma Gayatri. Srimad Bhagavatam is a commentary on the Brahma Gayatri. It's a long commentary, 18,000 verses long, but it's so. What's the Srimad Bhagavatam revealing? Krishna. So what's the Brahma Gayatri revealing? Krishna. You may not see the connection between the words of the mantra and the Srimad Bhagavatam, or Krishna himself and the Brahma Gayatri. But it's there. And for those who are qualified, that takes, sincere application of the mantra chanting, just like the Hare Krishna mantra chanting, in order to get realization of what the Hare Krishna mantra really is. It's Krishna. The mantra is Krishna and Radha. And one may not have a realization of that. That's okay. It's still there. Krishna is there in the mantra. And same with Brahma Gayatri. The absolute truth is there, being revealed through mantra. And expanded through its commentary, Srimad Bhagavatam. You
Yes,
have something further.
yes, Guru Maharaj. So for Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it's so people who chant it with material desires, Krishna takes care of their spiritual progress, right? But in the case of Brahma,
Do it again. Some people chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for fulfillment of material desire. That's the statement you made, right? And Krishna takes care of their spiritual desire, you said.
Spiritual progress.
Spiritual progress. Well, it can be very incremental, hardly perceivable. How long can one go on chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and seem to not make much progress? It's possible. Certainly possible. It's certainly possible to go in the fast lane, certainly possible to go in the medium lane, certainly possible to go in the slow lane. And different people are in different positions. So, Nam Abbas, there's Nam Upper, 3 stages, and there's gradations in between. Nam Aparad, offense. Nam Abbas, clearing stage. Shuddha Nam, pure. And then gradations in between. So someone's chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and they're in the Abbas stage. Are they getting benefit? Yeah. Slowly, real slowly, but they're getting benefit.
Yes.
In the Bhagavatam, there's a whole 2 chapters discussing the Ajamila story. And he's chanting Namabas. He became a degraded fellow, super degraded, super degraded, without the detail. But he chanted unintentionally because he was calling his son. He was calling his son not Narayana, but he called the sun. And he got saved from so many stockpile of sinful activities. Now, that's Abbas chanting. So it's an important detail. What happened after that? When the Yamadutas left and the Vishnu Dutas saved him, then what happened? He's freed from the past reactions, but there's still the tendency to do the same thing again. Because tendency, the root grows the weed. You can clip the weed, but the root is still there. So what about the root? So he went to Haridwar and went methods for purification so the tendency would be removed. And then he went back to Godhead. But he was protected from the Abbas chanting, the shadow chanting. So benefit, yeah. The spiritual benefit, as you've said. Spiritual progress, as you said. Now, you've something further?
No, Maharaj, I'll pass on.
Okay. Anyone else? Behind you, right behind you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Until today, I did not realize the relationship between Gaur Kishore Das Babaji and Jagannath Das Babaji. I never thought they are knowing each other.
Intimately,
I did not realize, yeah.
Intimately connected.
So it's more like a guru and disciple
yes,
relationship.
Yes.
And another clarification I want is you showed the Sadbhuja form of Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
So the 2 arms represent Rama, 2 arms represent Krishna, and the third one, I missed what you said.
It's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, okay.
Danda and Kamandalu.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I have one comment and 2 questions. The first, when you were talking about Srila Prabhupada, at the very starting, you were mentioning about his health issues, how the kidney doesn't work and all that. The question was coming in my mind. My God, possibly it is not like a simple health issue. It's a big health issue. But all the things what Prabhupada was doing, even he had to talk while coming in the Jaladut, and what are all other things like creating all these temples and writing.
Hold the microphone a little further from your mouth because it's hard to hear.
And then getting up every day and
Better, yeah.
getting up every day, because you were mentioning how you were gardening the thing. I was just, it's like, it's not possible for an ordinary person.
No.
It's like, and then the steps, the footsteps, it was
so empowered by Krishna to do what he did.
Yeah. So this...
he had determination. His mind was very strong, but even with persons with strong mind can't do what he did. He was empowered in addition to being a strong mind.
Yeah. So all these things is certainly not possible. Like as you were mentioning each and it just...
there's more and more. There's so much more.
Yeah. It just brought that more respect and more, attachment to Srila Prabhupada, how he sacrificed, what he did is like, it brought that more love.
This is appreciation.
Yes, appreciation for this.
Make it short.
Yes, for Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Maharaj, for sharing it. One of my question is, Prabhu was mentioning about that Gayatri chanting, right? So I had just a clarification question, maybe when we are doing the Gayatri chanting. So it's like Sun God has his Andaryami as Krishna, right? So we are focusing on that, or sometimes Surya Narayana is Krishna himself comes as a Sun God. So
you're mixing things.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand.
Don't mix things. Don't mix things.
So it is not okay. So what is the idea behind?
What's the idea behind what?
Of while doing the Gayatri chanting, we are praying to Sun, saying the mantra for Sun.
Some persons are sun worshippers, and they worship the sun by chanting that mantra. We went through this. There's material, there's impersonal, and there's personal.
For the devotees.
For the devotee, it's the supreme person. Para Brahman. The supreme person. Tat is a pronoun. What does tat refer to? Depends on who you are. You get tat is a pronoun. The sun, the impersonal, the supreme person. So for the devotee, it's the supreme person. It's a prayer it's a mantra propitiating the supreme person. Tat, without his name, but he has a name.
Sure, thank you, Maharaj. Then my second question is from the morning class in the temple. Just is it okay to ask that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep it short.
Okay. So you were mentioning in the class that Krishna won't be happy if his pastime is not connected with the internal energy. Something you were mentioning while in the class. So I couldn't able to understand.
I couldn't understand your question. Do you understand her question? Do you understand your question?
I'll put it in a different way, Maharaj. Maybe you were mentioning that Krishna would like to enjoy his pastime, but if it is not connected with the internal energy or something you were mentioning, even I was not.
I'm not clear what you're asking.
So he won't feel happy.
Let's just do it another time.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Not now, because I don't know what you're asking.
Sure.
There is a question by Amara Mataji from the afternoon class. She sent it a little later. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I am humbly curious why Krishna wanted to prove Radharani superior to Mother Yashoda, although they are in different categories in relation to Krishna. Was this in the category of who gives the highest pleasure to Krishna?
It's a pastime. You know, how many points does Mother Jasoda get and how many points does Radharani get? It's not like point counting. She gets more points. Radharani gets more points. He's with Radharani, glorifying Radharani, and he's making a comparison. Now, it's a different. Vatsalya rasa and Madhurya rasa are of a different rasa, and it's superlative and superlative. So it's not that the superlative of Radharani is more superlative than the superlative of Mother Jasoda. He's just speaking like that. It's a loving exchange. And then she's saying something in response to his loving exchange. How can you speak like this? She's your mother. She's my superior. How can you say I'm superior to her? How can you say that? I'll show you. So he performs a pastime. It's loving. It's a loving exchange. That's all. Yes, it's true. Now that the answer, another way of answering this question is, there's Srinath Chakravarti has written this nice verse which says that of all the associates of Krishna in Vrindavan, the foremost are the gopis. And the foremost of the gopis is Srimati Radharani. So we can say comparative and superlative. But it's also, one can say superlative and superlative. So back to her question, you can give a yes answer, but I think it's incomplete to just give a yes answer. Mother Jasoda is an eternal associate in the spiritual world. Nanda and Jasoda, they're eternal associates, as is Radharani, as are as is the cowherd boys, and so forth and so on. And they're all, does Krishna have a greater liking for this one as opposed to that one? They're eternal associates with superlative love for one another. That's a nice position. Something else? Anybody? Oh boy.
Guru Maharaj mentioned that these pastimes are the one we are discussing now is not placed in Srimad Bhagavatam, but Rasa Leela is, and there is about
the 5 chapters.
5 chapters. Is it Rasa Leela? Also, the other personalities like Lakshmi Devi also wanted to participate in Rasa Leela.
Yes.
Sukadev Goswami mentioned Rasa Leela in Bhagavatam, not other pastimes. So is it because is it superior, more intimate, more highly superior? Is that the reason? And what makes the Rasa Leela so important compared to other pastimes that made
Well,
place
you're
in-
saying it more compared to other pastimes, and I don't know if our acharyas would agree with you. Because there's 5 chapters dedicated to the Rasa Leela. That means it's more important than the other pastimes of Krishna. I don't know if our acharyas would agree with that statement. In all the activities of Krishna, so did you attend the Memorial Day weekend retreat?
I listened on Garuda Prabhu.
Okay, Garuda.
I listened online.
You listened online. He and I also, but he took me, the first word in the 5 chapters is Krishna took shelter of his Yogamaya potency. That's how the whole section begins. and it's a big deal. How can Krishna take shelter of his Yogamaya potency? It's his Yogamaya potency. It's a Leela. And his Leela is conducted by this Yogamaya potency. And Krishna took shelter so that he could give happiness and pleasure to his beloveds. And his beloveds doesn't just mean the gopis. It's all of his associates are his beloveds. It's this superlative kind of explanation. So the assertion or presumption that because there's 5 chapters, it has more importance than any of the other pastimes of Krishna. I don't know if our acharyas would agree with that. It gets the spotlight for sure, and it's very the gopis are very dear to Krishna. That's for sure. But it's not like Mother Jasoda is down the totem pole somewhere, or the cowherd boys are down the totem pole somewhere. The intensity of their love is special. And the way that he reciprocates with the intensity of their love is special. That's for sure. But I don't know about the statement that it's the most important.
Thank you very much. Can I add a small
sure.
comment about Amara Mataji's question about Mother Yashoda falling at the feet of Radharani and Krishna proving the supremacy? Last 2 days, in my heart also, I was unable to harmonize this pastime because I had the similar thought. How can that happen? Because at least in the pastime, it's
Why
happening.
not? How can it happen? Why not? Who are you to say it can't happen? Who are anyone? It's just not just you, but Krishna wants to demonstrate to Mother Jasoda how much love he feels for her, how much he swallowed 2 forest fires and he showed the universal existence inside his mouth twice to Mother Jasoda. So that we have the abacus, and there's only two places compared to 5 chapters. So it must be this number 5 is better. Don't do that.
I understood today, Guru Maharaj. It's all transcendental. All the rasas are equally.
Yeah. And the fullness of Krishna is full.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah.
Just a comment, Maharaj. I pretty much grew up around Sri Vaishnava literature. So when I hear Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, and it's always comparable to Sri Vaishnava literature. But when it came to Radharani's pastimes or something, I've never seen that anywhere. So I always had like a little prick in the back of my head that am I to take this at face value because it's coming from the acharyas? Because I couldn't find the reference anywhere else. But I think the way you put it, that their life of devotion is like the praman that shows that it's not just.
Yeah, one ISKCON devotee that handles this subject very, very well is Hari Parshad, because he's super scholarly, and he deals with things like this that are philosophical and scholarly in a very scholarly way. One of the, I'll send to you a link. He gave a 3-part class on bhakti. What is bhakti rasa? That was the title. What is bhakti rasa? And then the first class was from all the different backgrounds of acharyas, including Sri Vaishnava acharyas, what they wrote about bhakti rasa. And In comparison, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did through Rupa Goswami was he just took it and, exponentially expanded it. Because in Sri Vaishnavism, there's not so much emphasis, there's much more emphasis on Aishwarya than Madhurya. Much less emphasis on, there's emphasis because between Lakshmi and Narayan, there's love. And the servants, but the mood of that love is not the same as Radha. So there's proportionately more Aishwarya Bhav. And so you won't find it so much. There's one of the commentators that Srila Prabhupada referred to on Srimad Bhagavatam was two commentators from the Sri Sampradaya. Not many places, but a number of places. Viraraghava Acharya. And he made commentaries on passages, parts of at least. But Srimad Bhagavatam is rasa. So he took, I don't know which portions he gave, because there's some portions that aren't as rasa-filled as other portions in the Bhagavatam. But the Bhagavatam leads in layers and layers and layers to rasa. The entire 10th canto. But even before the 10th canto, start in the first canto. And there's lots of rasa, like Kunti saying, I don't understand the love of Mother Yasoda. That she was afraid of a stick in Krishna's hand. Krishna was afraid of a little stick in her hand. He who's feared by fear personified is afraid of a little stick in Mother Yasoda's hand. He's crying. And it wasn't crocodile tears, fake. It wasn't play acting. He was afraid. I don't understand. That's Kunti. Oh, it's there from the outset in Srimad Bhagavatam, and then it just builds and builds and builds and builds throughout. And one who understands the not overview, but the intricacies of the Bhagavatam is building and building and building and building and building. Revealing the absolute truth, like this question about the commentary on Brahma Gayatri. It reveals what Brahma Gayatri is really. It's revealing the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. Vedaista Sayarvara Aham Eva Vedyo. So there may be more emphasis on the Aishwarya feature of that source of everything and more emphasis on the Madhurya. Or Madhurya is so strong that it eclipses the Aishwarya. And and Radharani's chastising Krishna. Lakshmi doesn't do that. There's a certain sweetness, and Krishna likes it. So, thank you for sharing that topic. But it's a matter of it's a line of disciplic succession from which there's a certain lens through which the scriptures are looked at, and that lens tells them what it tells them. The scripture is the same scripture for others, but the lens through which they look at it may be more bhakti rasa impacted or less. But there's bhakti rasa in all, because that's what Lord Vishnu, or the worshipper of Lord Vishnu, does. It's the taste. It's the taste. Rasa means taste. It's the taste that keeps them going. The taste of Aishwarya. And it's fantastic. It's pure. Squeaky clean, absolutely pure. Now, you have has your background, the Sri Vaishnavism. Each one of us in the room has something a little different. Mine's a little different. And, the tendency to look at things through that lens is a tendency that, what I grew up with, lens. Then comes the power of sound. And by hearing sound from this source, instead of from the Christian upbringing source that I had, where then it didn't have a lot of answers. Anyway, without all the thises and that's, it wasn't dogma. It's just rasa, and rasa that leads to what? Rasa that leads to the spiritual realm. Anyway, what's that spiritual realm? And if you're a Christian, you think it's this. And if you're Sri Vaishnava, you think it's that. And if you're impersonalist, you think it's something else. And if you're a Madhva, you think it's something else. So what's the right lens to look through? It is by hearing, then it can become very clear from whatever my upbringing was. And then you just sit with it through sound. And the connections become clear. It may take a while, that's okay. The connections become clear. I think we should end. I have an early class tomorrow morning. The China class on Radharani. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.